Hi kids, welcome back. Today, chapter 3, benefits of physical activity, health and wellness benefits. We're going to begin with hypokinetic diseases and conditions. Um, these types of diseases and conditions are caused by sedentary living and not being active. And sedentary living costs the nation around $150 billion each year from an increase in healthcare and loss of productivity. If you take a look at the amount of money that is, it's a huge amount of money, and that money is actually um, just thrown down the tubes basically because it's very capable of not using losing that money because you can be active and not lose that money for our nation. So hypokinetic diseases and conditions. I want to talk a little bit about some obesity trends. If you take a look in 1995, or excuse me, 1985, you take a look at 10 to 14% of the state being obese. Obese being with a BMI of greater than 30 or 30 pounds overweight for a 5'4" person that's 5'4". So 30 pounds on an individual that's 5'4" is quite a bit. You take a look, we have actually a really small amount, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 states with 10 to 14%. So that means every 10 people, you have at least one individual that is obese, or for every 10 people, you have 1.4, not quite a full person that's obese. So that was in 85. I'm just going to play these slides and let you kind of take a look and see what happens. In 1990, most of the country is 10 to 14% overweight. Again, 1 person to 1.4, 1.5 people per every 10 are obese. Continue along. In 2000, that number now jumps up to 20%. 20%, so that means 2 now in every 10. Not just 1, but 2. For the majority, about half of the country. And you're looking at 2010, 30% in 8, 9, 10 states. 10 states, 30%. That means every 10 people, 3 of those people are obese. So our average went from, in 1990, being 10 to 15% overweight, obese, to 2000 being 20% to 15% obese, to 2010 being 30%. So basically every 10 years we are increasing 10%, 10% every 10 years. If we continue that trend, we will be a very obese nation very quickly. The Surgeon General has indicated that regular physical activity is one of the best ways to decrease illnesses and increase wellness. When we talk about decreasing illnesses, we're talking about those hypokinetic diseases, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. Those are the diseases that are hypokinetic that we're talking about. We're going to talk a little bit about those cardiovascular diseases right now. These are diseases that affect the heart and circulatory system. There are 2 primary factors. Two risk factors. You have a primary and a secondary. The crazy thing about these risk factors is these are all things that you can control. Okay, so if you take a look at primary factors, being sedentary or inactive, smoking, high blood pressure, high fat levels in the blood, and excessive body fat, and diabetes. These are all controllable by each individual if you move, get out and be active, watch what you eat healthy. Secondary, stressful living, kind of controllable but not as controllable, and excessive alcohol, that is very controllable. So these risk factors are controllable for cardiovascular diseases. Coronary artery disease, taking a look at atherosclerosis, it's the buildup of fat and cholesterol. You take a look at the picture. Here's a clean artery wall. Blood's able to flow right through. It's just like a brand new plumbing system from your sink. Okay, we have a little bit of buildup in this middle one, and that is just like you get some hair or dirt buildup in the pipes, and the water doesn't drain as quickly. And if you take a look at the bottom, we have plaque basically covering half the artery. So think of that as half of that sink, half that water is not going to go down as quickly. It's going to take twice as long for that to happen. Do that in the body, now you have too much pressure, and bad things happen. Like a heart attack, blood supply is actually stopped or reduced to the heart. When the heart does not have oxygen-rich blood, it's going to stop and die. So that's one of the things that can come about from that. Taking a look at a stroke, oxygen cut off to the brain or severely reduced. That is one type of stroke, ischemic stroke. The other one is a hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic stroke is where blood actually, you bleed on the brain, a blood vessel breaks up in the brain. The first one is the one that's clotted, and then you don't get any oxygen-rich blood to the brain. So again, from that coronary artery disease, atherosclerosis, you get a heart attack and a stroke. Blood pressure, the force against the artery wall, is kind of a crazy little thing. Systolic blood pressure and diastolic. Blood pressure is kind of 180 over 20 is the normal. So they take the top systolic, 120, or diastolic, 80, 120 over 80, excuse me, I said 180 over 20. I apologize. But you take that 120 over 80, that's a normal blood pressure. Anything above that is going to be either prehypertension, stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3 high blood pressure. To find the systolic blood pressure, they use the blood pressure cuff, but it is actually the pressure in the arteries immediately after the heart beats. So the heart beats, and then they're taking a look at the pressure in the wall of the artery. The diastolic is the pressure in the artery just before the next heartbeat. So it beats, and then right before it beats, that's the diastolic blood pressure. So cancer. Cancer is uncontrollable cells invade normal cells and steal their nutrition and interfere with cells and normal functions. There are lots of types of cancer. Some are just genetically you're given, or you get what you get. Some are preventable. Breast cancer and colon cancer are considered to be hypokinetic, and these are tied to some of the risk factors that you actually do, those habits that you create. Sometimes it's just genetic, though. Excuse me. Diabetes. Have two types of diabetes. Excuse me, two types of diabetes. You have type 1 and type 2. Diabetes is when a person's body cannot regulate blood sugar levels. Type 1 is not hypokinetic. It's a genetic condition. It's 10% of all diabetics. You take insulin to control this. Type 2, hypokinetic. This is from obesity. The body is basically saying, wait a second, carrying too much adipose tissue, and now I cannot function. Weird thing about type 2 is reversible. Type 1 is not. Type 1 is a genetic condition. Type 2 is reversible if you increase your activity and start to eat well. You see that in The Biggest Loser all the time. They go from having type 2 diabetes to not having diabetes. Osteoporosis, some bone deterioration, happens mostly in older individuals, but is showing up in younger individuals because of the lack of activity, bone density activity, meaning weight-bearing activity, and also the lack of nutrition, good nutrition, not eating properly and getting enough calcium. Physical activity and wellness. Health is a freedom from disease and being positively healthy. So it's kind of two definitions, not just free from disease, but being positively healthy. And the next section is going to talk a little bit about that. Some components of positive health. We have improved sense of well-being and mental function. When you do continue to be active or are active, you get an improved sense of well-being because your body is producing endorphins and other chemicals in the brain that activate the brain, also giving oxygen to the brain, oxygen-rich blood to the brain, improving that mental function. Looking your best, your body is going to have a change in shape. Muscles are going to increase, lose some adipose tissue, so you start to look better. You're able to enjoy leisure activities. You're able to function and move better, which is kind of goes with the next one, working efficiently. The efficiency of the body is more efficient. You're able to handle workloads and utilize that oxygen quicker. Then you have an opportunity for social interactions. People are actively social, playing games, working out, running. You get tons of people that way. And lastly, probably most importantly, the ability to meet emergencies, able to carry things, move things, push things. And that's going to lead us into hyperkinetic conditions. These are health problems caused by too much physical activity. So when people actively work out too much. First one is overuse injuries. Bones, muscles, and other tissues become damaged. Examples of that are stress fractures, muscle strains, and pulls. You also have blisters. Blisters kind of an initial one type of workout or one specific session workout where you have an overuse injury. Activity neurosis. This is people who are overly concerned about getting enough exercise and become blatantly upset when they don't get enough exercise and miss a workout, which is a negative effect on you as an individual or on that individual themselves. Which leads to body image disorder. This occurs when a person tries to achieve an ideal body by doing excessive exercise. And it's interesting because an ideal body is really unrealistic and it's disordered because there isn't really an ideal body. Everybody's body is different. This affects males and females. And these can lead to eating disorders, which are not healthy at all. Some back and posture health. Lordosis. Lordosis is too much arch in the lower back or sway back. Abs are weak and hip flexors are too strong. You see this where people have a big old arch in their back and puts a lot of stress on the back itself. The next one, ptosis. I believe that's how you say it. You get a protruding abdomen. That's where the abdominals aren't being pulled in tight; they're just being relaxed and protrudes out. And the next one, kyphosis, rounded back and shoulders. You see those people that sit in this position all the time. That's all they can sit. They cannot sit tall with their shoulders up and back. That is kyphosis. Some things that you can do to improve and maintain your posture in your back. Use large muscles in the body when you lift. Use the legs. When you do lift, keep your hips low. Take one big load and split it up. Don't twist and turn when you're lifting. Try to push the object as much as you can. And try to avoid being bent over when you're standing or sitting or lifting. Being bent over meaning at the waist. And that's it for chapter 3. We'll talk about this tomorrow on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.